I shouldn't be telling you this. Even now, with my hands trembling over the keyboard, I can still feel the salt of that place on my tongue. If you're listening, it's already too late to forget, because once you know about them, you'll start to see the shadows moving under the water too. It began as a research dive, nothing more. I'd been hired to photograph a chain of ancient ruins discovered on the ocean floor, miles off the continental shelf. The sonar had revealed pillars and archways, structures no one could explain, sitting at a depth where sunlight dies. Everyone on the boat called it the Abyssal Temple, a nickname that made the crew laugh nervously over coffee. To me, it was just another job. Descending into that darkness felt like slipping into someone else's nightmare. The water swallowed every sound except my own breath, and the pressure pressed against my chest as if the sea itself wanted me to turn back. My headlamp cut a narrow cone through the black, revealing fragments of statues half buried in silt. They weren't like any sculptures I'd seen before. Elongated faces, sunken eye sockets, ribs carved in impossible detail, as if the stone itself had once been alive. At first, I thought the shapes around me were more ruins, bodies frozen mid-step, arms outstretched. But when I drifted closer, the details sharpened. Jagged nails, algae-draped torsos, and mouths hanging open in silent screams. The silt stirred in lazy clouds around their feet, even though there was no current. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks. Decompression stress, nitrogen narcosis, anything but what my gut screamed. Yet as I passed between two of the figures, I felt something shift. Not a movement I could see, but a sensation, like static crawling across my skin. My heart hammered so hard my mask vibrated. I raised my camera. Through the viewfinder, the statues looked different. Their heads were tilted slightly toward me, their jaws clenched. I blinked, lowered the camera, and they were still again. My regulator hissed as I tried to slow my breathing, bubbles streaming past my ears like faint whispers. Then I saw it, a faint glow, pale and sickly, deep within one of the eye sockets. Just a flicker, like bioluminescence. When I turned my light, it vanished, but the cold surged through my wetsuit, biting into my bones. My dive computer beeped a warning, but I ignored it. Ahead, through the murk, rose what looked like a massive doorway carved into the seafloor, and all around it, the statues crowded closer, their shapes taller now, more defined, as though they'd been waiting for me to notice them. I shouldn't have gone any farther, but some pressure from below, pulled me on. And that's when the silence broke. A low vibration, like a voice too deep to hear, began to tremble through the water around me. That vibration wasn't just sound, it was a pulse that throbbed against my chest, my skull, my teeth. Every bubble that left my regulator shimmered strangely, as if the water itself were trembling. I froze mid-kick as a faint cloud of silt drifted past. For a heartbeat, I thought it was my own exhalation, but then another pulse came, stronger, and the statues shifted. It was subtle at first. One arm sagged lower, a head tilted. My light flickered against their slick, algae-covered skin. They weren't statues at all. Not completely. My chest tightened with the realization. They were something in between, some state of being I couldn't name. Stone, flesh, and sea all fused together. A shuddering groan seeped out of the ruin's doorway ahead. Not bubbles, not current, an actual sound. It rose and fell like a chant too slow for the human ear. I felt it inside my bones, as though my marrow was vibrating to its rhythm. My dive computer blared again. My oxygen supply was dropping faster than it should. My hands shook as I tried to steady the camera, but the lens fogged with a thin film of salt. I kicked backward, desperate to put distance between me and them. That's when I saw their eyes open. One by one, pale spheres like drowned moons blinked awake in the sockets of those towering forms. Cold light spilled from them, illuminating the seafloor in a dim, sickly glow. A figure nearest to me, once a statue, moved. Not a twitch, a full, slow step, its foot sinking into the silt with a soundless weight. Its jaw closed and opened, releasing a burst of bubbles that weren't bubbles at all, tiny shimmering motes that swirled around my mask like plankton. They stung where they touched my skin, tiny needle pinches of freezing cold. My breathing became ragged. Every sound inside my helmet was amplified. The rasp of air, the clank of my gear, my heartbeat like a drum. I tried to signal to the surface, but my radio hissed with static that almost formed words. Something brushed my fin, a soft, deliberate touch. When I turned, another of the Guardians stood inches away, its chest rising and falling like a slow tide. I wanted to scream, but only a stream of bubbles escaped. My mind clawed for explanations. Hypoxia, hallucination. Yet the cold was real, the sting on my skin was real, and the smell, God, the smell was real too. Even through my regulator, I tasted it, brine and rot and something metallic like blood long congealed. Beyond the doorway, deeper shadows writhed. Shapes larger than the Guardians shifted in the dark, their forms too immense to comprehend. The chanting grew louder, resolving into a single deep note that felt like a heartbeat from the center of the earth. Something inside me whispered to go closer, that I'd already been chosen. My hands moved before I could stop them, reaching out toward the glowing threshold as the Guardians parted silently, inviting me in. And then the floor itself began to sink. The seafloor cracked open beneath me with a soundless convulsion, a plume of silt rising like smoke. My body lurched downward, weightless yet dragged, as if invisible fingers were clutching my ankles. I tried to kick free, but the water had turned heavy, thick, almost gelatinous, slowing every movement. My dive computer screamed its final warning. The screen flickered, then died. I dropped my camera. It spun once, flashing in the glow of the Guardian's eyes before vanishing into the dark. The doorway ahead widened, stone melting away like wax. A tunnel yawned below, lined with carvings of faces twisted in anguish, their mouths open as though screaming water instead of air. The chant, or heartbeat, or whatever it was, climbed in pitch until my eardrums quivered. They closed in around me, dozens now. Their bodies were longer, more fluid, the stone cracking to reveal muscle that pulsed like something freshly alive. Their eyes burned brighter, yet none of them touched me. They only circled, their heads tilting in perfect unison, as if waiting for a signal. I tried to inflate my vest, but the controls stuck. The needle on my pressure gauge plummeted. Panic clawed at my throat. In a frenzy, I clawed upward toward the faint shimmer of the surface far above. But the tunnel's current caught me, a downward spiral that turned my body like a rag doll. My headlamp flickered and went black. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but darkness and the pressure crushing my ribs. Then a glow, immense, greenish, pulsating from deep below. It wasn't a structure. It wasn't even a creature. It was an eye the size of a ship's hull, opening in the abyss beneath me, its pupil swallowing the light. Around it, rows of smaller shapes swam or prayed or convulsed. Guardians, thousands of them, suspended like offerings. The voice was no longer outside. It was in my skull, behind my eyes, speaking without words. Images flooded me, drowned cities, columns of chained souls sinking through black water, a hunger that had waited eons. My chest convulsed. My regulator fell from my mouth. Salt water surged in, burning my throat. Yet instead of suffocating, I felt something else. Cold slipping into my veins, filling my lungs with a strange stillness. My heartbeat slowed, echoing the deep note around me. My skin numbed. My fingers stiffened. The Guardians drifted closer, their arms extending like slow tides. I looked at my reflection in one of their glowing eyes and saw my own face mottled green, my pupils dimming. A shudder ran through me as I realized I wasn't ascending anymore. I was changing. The last thing I felt was a hand, not stone, not flesh, but something in between, closing gently over mine, guiding me down. The chant ceased. All was silent except for a single thought that was not my own, pressing into me like a tide. Welcome home. And then the dark opened its mouth and swallowed me whole. I'm still there, somewhere below, waiting for the next diver to come close enough to see our eyes open.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.